Chapter 1. The Lake Estate Mansion of the Vampire Master of New Orleans.
I honestly can't tell if they're gonna kill each other or if they're on the same side.
Hensley Weston muttered as he pushed his jet black hair back. Rebel Weston looked up from her phone, following her brother's sightline out over the midnight garden of Sébastien Gael's antebellum mansion. Eric Exline, head of the New Orleans PAC security team, and Margot Bello, Gail's personal soldier and head bodyguard, were going at it over security protocols at the Vampire Master's sprawling Lake Pontchartrain estate. Rebel couldn't hear exactly what they were arguing about, but she could see from the vibrating tension in their body language that things were about to come to blows. $20 as Bello kicks his ass, Rebel bet, grinning. Hensley's brows raised as he gave her the side eye.
Man, you're a terrible friend. I can't believe you're throwing with a vampire over a werewolf.
Dude, she's like 400 years older and basically bottled rage reanimated by human blood, Rebel pointed out with a grin. I love Eric like bacon, but she's gonna wipe the floor with him if it comes to that. Hensley just rolled his eyes.
I'm gonna tell him you said that.
Fine, and I'll tell him you're the one who accidentally scratched his Chevelle last weekend. Her brother clamped his lips shut. Eric adored his ride. He'd gone on and on about the minor scratch for hours like someone had punt-kicked his baby off a balcony. Hensley had wisely remained mum about his faux pas, but Rebel had seen that shit with her own eyes. Eric looked like a tall, tan, blonde All-American who just happened to burst into a 300-pound werewolf the same color as a lion. Margot Bello was a lean, severe woman with pitch-black hair, obsidian eyes, and a fine facial scar that made her look even more vicious. Like all vampires, she was Edward Scissorhands pale with a nightmarish smoothness to her, as if her humanity had been rubbed down into fluid, frictionless curves. Standing fully encased in black leather next to Eric's jeans and Henley, they couldn't have looked more opposite if they tried. Eric's all heat and werewolf passion, and Bello's cold as ice. The calculating ones are always the scariest. She could take them. But she'd have to work a hell of a lot harder than she wanted to. $20 or what? Her brother's face twisted into an amused grimace.
She just said she was gonna cut off his wolf tail with her broadsword and wear it around her belt as a trophy. I should just give you the 20 now.
Told ya, Rebel replied smugly, returning to her game.
You don't want to step in here? Aren't we all supposed to be working together?
Hans had spent a few weeks recovering from his misadventures in the swamp-ass bayou and was just beginning to resemble his old self again, for which Rebel was unaccountably relieved. That said, he was still getting caught up on the strange, convoluted politics of the supernatural that Rebel honestly didn't fully comprehend herself. So, as I understand it, the wolves and the vamps will always be diametrically opposed. But they're both loyal as hell, and their bosses want them to get along for the Southern Conclave. They'll figure it out after they get through their posturing. Nothing unites disparate groups like a common enemy, and once Alexandre Nikolaev arrives into New Orleans with the Talmage, those two are going to operate like a well-oiled machine.
Who is Nikolaev again?
As I understand it, Nikolaev is the head of the Talmage in Europe. They're a society of mages and sorcerers. Anyway, I haven't met him yet, but he's said to be one of the strongest sorcerers in the world. Some say he's descended from Rasputin himself. He wants supernaturals to come out of the closet and take their rightful place among the world or some shit like that.
So why is he coming here?
Because he needs the sign-off of the Southern Conclave. Miss Dottie, Gael, and Lennox represent the most powerful supernaturals in North America, and none of them are too keen on being outed.
Eric said the Talmage sent assassins to kill Gael.
Rebel nodded. These groups have more drama and conspiracy than a season of Narcos. I'm sure there have been more assassination attempts between them, but the most recent was when Nikolaev sent a demon summoner to try to possess Gael.
The same vampire who nearly got you crushed by a demon?
Fire lit her brother's eyes. Nah, I actually got myself into that particular quandary all on my own, she admitted with a shrug. Gael actually saved my life on that one. For a vampire, he's surprisingly human.
Miss Dottie told me Gael's crazy powerful.
Hens remarked, referring to her landlady and the head of the witches' convocation. Yeah, he's stupid rich, too. This is just one of his properties in the city, Rebel added, gesturing around the waterfront acreage. Gail's going to be hosting the Southern Conclave here, which is why Eric and Bella will end up finding a way to make it work. Supposedly, even more soups are coming into town for a show of support. These are going to be some of the biggest power players in North America, from what I understand.
Jesus, this sounds like the Super Bowl of magic.
Hens's expression was caught somewhere between fascinated and horrified by all the information he was sponging up. The Southern Conclave was comprised of the heads of the major leaders for the underground supernatural factions in the South. This was the Werewolf Assembly, headed by Lincoln Lennox, the Witches' Convocation, controlled by Miss Dottie Lafitte, and the Vampire Nocturne under Gael. Rebel heard of the Shapeshifter Coterie and the Fey Parley, but she wasn't sure they were coming too. They didn't meet often, but when they did, woo boy, she heard it was a production. Loads of partying, posturing, competition, and shenanigans from the sounds of it. Hensley turned to her.
So if the Talmays tried to kill Gale, why is he hosting them now?
Tradition and appearances, mainly.
Sébastien Gael himself replied as he stepped beside them on the expansive marble terrace overlooking the garden. He turned to smile at her, his lavender eyes sparkling in the muted lighting. As usual, the Vampire Master was dressed in one of his impeccable suits, looking like he stepped off the cover of a magazine, while she and Hensley were loafing around in jeans and t-shirts like the plebeians they were. Startled, Hens turned to stare at the dark-haired vampire.
Holy crap, where did you come from?
Gael laughed softly.
Well, I wasn't lurking in the shadows, if that's what you're asking.
He extended a pale hand.
You must be Hensley Weston. I've been looking forward to meeting Rebel's Frere. I am Sébastien Gael. Welcome to my home.
Hens shot her a disconcerted, "What the fuck" look.
Nice to meet you too. I'm sorry though, what's a frere? I don't speak French.
It means pain in the ass brother, Rebel translated with her own flair. And you'll start picking it up the longer you're here.
Enchanté.
Gael replied as he shook hands with her brother. She watched Hensley's posture relax as he became momentarily entranced by Gael's prismatic dry ice eyes. Happens to the best of us, Rebel thought. She knew firsthand how it felt to be transfixed by a being so powerful it would take an entire order of mages and sorcerers to take him out. Nice of you to finally arrive, Gael, she snarked as they finished shaking hands. I got $20 on Bello kicking Eric's ass if they throw down. You in?
Your sister is a delight, Hensley.
Gael added in a confiding tone, shooting her an amused look.
Her witticisms know no bounds.
Pretty sure you're the first ever to call her a delight. Most would describe her as obstinate and smartass.
Underestimated qualities.
Gael responded, gazing at her.
Your sister is a strong woman, and the complexity of a strong woman is intoxicating.
You just like that I don't lay down at your feet, unlike the rest of New Orleans, Rebel replied, though the inside of her felt warmed by the compliment.
Oui, je dois bien le reconnaître.
His mouth curved in an enigmatic smile. Rebel's attention was diverted suddenly when Margot Bello and Eric strode up toward them, arguing.
Whoa. I have fought in more battles than you can begin to imagine.
Margot Bello hissed in a low, taut voice that just dared him to keep pushing her.
The last time you fought, the musket was considered high-tech. I respect your opinion, but the war theater and tactics have changed since Napoleon was alive.
Chilling is killing.
And here I thought the Southern Conclave was about diplomacy and negotiation rather than outright murder.
Eric replied with wry humor before turning to Rebel.
Ah, there she is, Miss Mayhem herself. I heard that bet, and I'm disappointed you think that vamp would beat me. $20? Really, Rebel?
I also find that paltry sum offensive.
Bello added with a sneer.
That is not a wager, that is a tip.
What do you think, Hens?
Eric quizzed Hensley. Her brother raised his hands in self-defense.
Yo, I'm staying out of this.
Bello would rock your world, X-Line, Rebel said, standing her ground. Then she was shocked when Bello actually fist-bumped her. That's what I'm talking about, girl power!
What seems to be the problem?
Gael interrupted smoothly, returning them both to task.
The wolf does not believe it is necessary to secure the perimeter adequately.
Hey, don't put words in my mouth, bloodsucker.
Eric answered, his eyes flashing gold.
All I said is it doesn't make sense to run patrols over 2,000 acres of indigo plantation and put vampires in the water. Not if we can try to ward the place with the help of the witches.
Ik for yourself, Chiot.
She sneered.
Sorcerers can unravel a ward.
Call me puppy one more time.
He gritted out.
See what happens.
Hens and Rebel watched their back and forth like a tennis match. The only thing that could make this better was a bucket of popcorn.
Friends, please.
Gael said in his soothing tone.
Tensions are high, but we must remember we have enjoyed an alliance since the city was established. We are not enemies. Alexandre Nikolaev and his supplicants are our mutual adversaries in this scenario. Es-tu d'accord avec moi?
Agreed.
Exactement.
He responded, just as Bello said.
C'est bon alors.
Gael clapped his hands together.
Then let us approach this in an unexpected way. I have invited Rebel and her brother Hensley to help us come up with an altogether unconventional strategy for defense.
Wait, that's why you asked us here? Rebel's brows went up. That was definitely unexpected. Unless any of the Talmays showing up have open bounties on their heads, I'm not sure what you're expecting us to bring to the table.
Rebecca, you have far too narrow a view of your abilities.
Gael remarked before turning to her brother.
And Hensley, you have an altogether different skill set no one will be aware of or expecting.
Hensley watched him silently, suddenly completely still.
You are a sensate, are you not?
Gael asked lightly, as if it was common knowledge.
You have the ability to sense and channel magic of all kinds, from this world and others?
It was pointless to deny it, and Rebel didn't want her brother dragged into the middle of anything he wasn't willing to get involved in. She was also reasonably sure he never shared publicly what he was capable of doing for any of those things. Oh, so are we doing public outings tonight? Rebel deflected. Because if we are, I want to be the first to volunteer all the skeletons in your closet, she added pointedly, referring to her ability to see and interact with ghosts and spirits.
You misunderstand the intention behind my question, Mon Rev. I want to hire both of you to work in tandem with us for the protection of the Conclave. Your mutual abilities are required for a very special assignment. I merely wish to gain consensus first.
Rebel's eyes narrowed. Consensus costs cash money. Gael named a breathtaking six-figure sum. She and Hens traded disbelieving expressions.
I have a contract drawn up for your services in my office.
Gael continued lightly, as if he hadn't just shocked the shit out of them.
We can attend to it after we meet the other half of our security strategy.
Vampire Master, désolé, mais je ne peux pas être d'accord avec ça.
I can't believe I'm agreeing with Bello, but Hensley is a former Army Ranger, yeah, and Rebel is a hell of a fighter, but they're both still...
It is not for you to agree or disagree.
Gael interjected smoothly.
You will both play extremely vital roles in the welfare of our representatives of the Conclave, but my decision is made. Now, if you'll allow me, I will introduce you to your partners in this endeavor. All will become clear if you have the patience to allow it.
He looked up then at the night sky. Spindly clouds floated airily across the crescent moon, shining bright and illuminating the garden and the lake beyond. Rebel and Hensley followed his gaze, but Eric and Bellows saw whatever it was first with their excellent eyesight. Rebel was startled by their simultaneously sharp intake of breaths. She turned, squinting up into the night sky. Suddenly, Hensley pointed.
Holy shit, is that what I think it is?
There were two dark shadows coming in fast by the size of them. Their wingspans were too large to be any kind of bird, but as they neared, they crossed the moon, and they looked closer to the size of planes, but they were undulating like serpents. The air suddenly felt electric with the strange breathlessness that came just before a terrible storm unleashed its fury. As the creatures approached, their magic snapped out like a lightning crack and Rebel flinched back. She blinked, struggling to comprehend what she was seeing. Eric moved to stand beside her, slightly in front as if ready to block her with his body. Bello made the same move in front of Gael.
I don't believe it.
Hensley stood beside her, gaping. What the hell are they? Rebel was trying to make out the dark shapes as they approached far faster than she could have imagined. Did her brother recognize their magic? Hens swallowed, shaking his head.
I'm not sure, but
A growl issued from Eric's throat. He pushed her back behind him as he crouched, preparing to shift. Bella withdrew a sword from her back and a flash of steel, protecting her master. "Spit it out!" Rebel pressed, staring at the hulking shapes, landing at the edge of the lake as they faced the mansion, even as Eric tried to push her back. What the hell are they? But it was too dark to see them clearly. Rebel could tell they were enormous. The power emanating from them felt sharp, and the air tasted of ozone. Her brother looked at her then, his gray eyes terrified.
I could be wrong, but I think they're dragons.
Gael smiled and nodded, stepping down from the terrace.
Yes, they are.